Hello students, we are going to review Unit 2 Part 1, which walks us through factoring and the basics of the zero product property. So what we are going to do here, and I am just going to write all these in, we are going to factor 30x squared plus 20x, and this is my original. The original is what goes inside the box. So when I am looking for what to take out of my binomial here, I'm going to look at my coefficients, 36 and 20, and ask myself, what do they have in common? What are they both divisible by? And I'm going to ask the same question looking at the variables, x squared and x. So you might see that a little bit more clearly for x squared and x. You might see that they share an x. So I can factor that out, okay? But 36 and 20 might be a little bit trickier. So let's look at that. 36 and 20. Make a list of the factors and let's see what they have the same. Always 1 times itself. So 36 is even, so I know it's divisible by 2, and that is 2 times 18. The sum of the digits is 9, and that's divisible by 3, so it's divisible by 3, and that is 12. It's also divisible by 4, and that gives me 9. It's not divisible by 5, but it is divisible by 6. Okay, same thing for my 20. 1 times 20, 2 times 10. It's not divisible by 3. It is divisible by 4, and that gives me 4 times 5, and then we just start repeating. So what do they have the same? Well, they have a 1. They have a 2, and they have a 4. So which one is the biggest of those? 1, 2, or 4? Well, 4 is definitely the largest of those, so we are going to factor out the 4. And then I'm going to ask myself, all right, I have 4x here. What do I need to multiply to the 4x to get me back to 36x squared? Well, I know 4 times 9 is 36, so this needs to be a 9. 9 times 4 is 36. X times what is x squared? Well, x times x is x squared. Okay, now what do I need to multiply to the 4x to get to 20x? The x is already there, so 4 times what is 20? Well, 4 times 5, right? So that is 5. So my factored form, move this a little bit, my factored form is the outside times the top. 4x times the quantity, 9x plus 5. Don't forget the sign with your number, okay? All right, let's take a look at question 2. All right, the diamond box problems. So let's recall that inside we start to put the original. And by original, remember my first term goes in the upper left inside my box. So that's my x squared. And then my last term goes in the bottom right corner. Those together give me the product of my diamond. So x squared times 14 is 14x squared. My middle term is the sum. That's going to come down here. So just from the original, we are able to fill in the first term and the last term. I multiply them to get my product. Okay. And I need to figure out from the product what adds to 9x but multiplies to that 14x squared. So I like to make a little table. Okay, 9x. So my factors of 14 are 1 and 14, and the x squared is always going to split as x and x. So I know this will be x and this will be x. I'm just trying to figure out what coefficients go with it. Well, 1x plus 14x is not 9x. That is 15x. That's a no-go. I'll cross it off. Okay. So I can do 2x times 7x. 2 times 7 is 14. X times x is x squared. Well, that shows promise because 2 plus 7 is 9. All right, that one works. So my coefficients are 2 and 7. So that's what I put over here in these two spots. Okay. So I'm going to put the 2x and 7x. And now we go looking for our greatest common factors for this row and this row. So x squared and 7x share an x. X times x is x squared. 2x and 14 share a 2. So I'm going to double check this. 2 times x is 2x. All right, that works. 2 times what is 14? Well, 2 times 7, right? So that's a positive 7 and a positive 7 because all my numbers are positive. So my factored form is the left side times the top. X plus 2 in parentheses times x plus 7 in parentheses. Okay, that's my factored form. So let's take a look at one with a coefficient with my x squared. Okay, and a missing middle term. Okay, so if my middle term is missing, remember we can rewrite this with the middle term as a 0 coefficient. So 4x squared plus 0x minus 9. And then we follow the same procedure. My first term goes in the upper left. My last term goes in the lower right, bringing the sign with it. Now, when I multiply those together, that gets me negative 36x squared. And I have 0x as my sum. So this tells me I'm going to have a negative and positive of the same thing because they need to add to 0. So when I'm looking at my factors of negative 36x squared and looking for that sum of 0, I'm asking, okay, what number times itself is 36 so that I can change the sign of one of them and add to 0? So I am thinking that I'm going to do 6x and 6x, and one of them is going to be negative. So negative 6x plus 6x is 0x. All right, that works. 6x and positive 6x. And again, those go in the other two boxes that I did not fill in until this point. So now I'm looking for that greatest common factor between 4x squared and 6x. Now, they do share an x, but looking at the 4 and the 6, they also share a 2. 2x times what gets me to 4x squared? Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and x times x is x squared. 2x times what is 6x? Well, 2 times 3 is 6, and then the x is already there, and that's a positive 3. So here, for this bottom box, what does this need to be so that I multiply it to 2x and get negative 6x. Well, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, and the x is already there. So let's double check. The lower corner, negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. So my factored form, again, is the left times the top. So the quantity 2x minus 3 times the quantity 2x plus 3. And that's my factored form. All right, let's look at question 4. So here, hands down, when we took this test, the most common mistake we saw was in the setup. Okay, so this setup is telling me that I need to break this equation up into 2 smaller equations, and that's what we're going to do. Remember, the zero product property tells me that A times B equals 0 means that A equals 0 or B equals 0. So what I'm doing is I'm saying that this 2x minus 1 is my A, and this 2x minus 3 is my B. So I'm going to say that my A equals 0, or 2x minus 1 equals 0, and my B equals 0. So 2x minus 3 equals 0. And then I need to solve each of those equations. So option 1, 2x minus 1 equals 0. And I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and I have 2x equals 1, divide by 2, and x equals 1/2, or 0.5. Then option 2, I'm going to take my 2x minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and then I have 2x equals 3. I'm going to divide by 2, and we have x equals 3/2, or 1.5. Okay, and that's all we have to do for this problem. All right, we've got a couple more to go. Question 5, solve. Factor first and then solve using the zero product property. Okay, so this here is just like the previous question. This here is like the 2 before that. So I'm going to start with my first and my last. So I have 4 here, 5x squared here. Multiply them together to get 20x squared at the top of my diamond. And then negative 12x is my sum. That's my middle term. Okay, so what multiplies to 20, positive 20, but adds to negative 12x? So positive 20x squared and negative 12x. Now, a positive product and a negative sum tells me that both of these need to be negative. All right, so my go-tos are 1x times 20x, 2x times 10x. Oh, wait a minute. Let's put those signs in there. So this definitely does not add to negative 12, but this one does, right? So that's negative 12x. All right, I like that one. So let's try negative 2x and negative 10x. Negative 2x and negative 10x. And let's go look for those greatest common factors. 5x squared and negative 10x. Well, I see that x right away. And then looking at the 5 and the negative 10, I think I can take a 5 out of there. So 5x times 1x is my 5x squared. And 5x times negative 2 is negative 10x. All right, cool. What times 1x is negative 2x? Well, I'm pretty sure that's negative 2 also. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, and then the x is already there. All right, there's our factored form. -2 times -2 is +4, just double checking that. My factored form is the left, so the quantity 5x minus 2 times the top, x minus 2, or 1x minus 2 would work also. And then we're going to remember to put in the equals 0. I almost forgot that. Okay, don't forget that equals 0. And then our setup is, take your A and your B again. 5x minus 2 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. And again, we're going to solve option 1, 5x minus 2 equals 0, by adding 2 to both sides, and 5x equals 2, divide by 5, and x equals 2/5, or 0.4 is a valid option. Okay, option 2, we are going to solve x minus 2 equals 0 by adding 2 to both sides, and we get x equals 2. There we go. That's it. Okay, let's take a look at the last one. Here we are just going to factor. We're not going to solve it. We're just going to factor. And we're going to do so by first looking for a common factor between 5x squared, -5x, and -60. What are all three of these divisible by? And that's going to be our GCF. Well, I noticed that I have 5, -5, and -60, and those are all divisible by 5. But I'm also noticing that my last term does not have an x, so that x is not included in the greatest common factor. It's just 5. So what's the simplified trinomial then? Well, it's what we have after dividing everything by 5. 5 times what is 5x squared? Well, x squared. 5 times what is -5x? -x. And 5 times what is -60? I believe that is -12. So my simplified trinomial is that x squared minus x minus 12. And this is what I use in my diamond and my box. So x squared in the upper left, -12 in the lower right. X squared times -12 is -12x squared, and then -x goes here. All right, so what are my factors of -12x squared that add to -1x? Now, we have a negative product, which tells me I have a positive and a negative in my factors. So again, I can do 1x times 12x, 2x times 6x, 3x times 4x, and I need to have a negative outcome, so that means my larger factor is negative. Now these are only one apart, so this is going to be what I check. 3x minus 4x is -1x. Excellent. So 3x and -4x. Okay, so now let's look for our greatest common factor. X squared and -4x share an x. X times x is x squared. X times -4 is my -4x. X times 3, positive 3, is 3x. And positive 3 times -4 is -12. So my completely factored form, I'm going to go back and grab my GCF, 5, and then I'm going to write the factored form of my simplified trinomial. So the left is x plus 3, and the top is x minus 4. So 5 times the quantity x plus 3 times the quantity x minus 4. And that's it for part 1 of Unit 2.